take our swing into the Guardians. Their swing has been lacking a little bit over the past 5 games. Lost 4 of 5 last game in Baltimore, and then 3 out of 4 to Kansas City. Had a chance to really put a hurting on the Royals, but we kind of let them back into it a little bit. They're now 7 games back. Minnesota 6 games back. The Twins are getting hot again. Is there any concern over losing 4 or 5, or is just a mid-season, little slump that they'll get through? What do you guys think?
Derek, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead first. Over the course of 162, you're going to have your ebbs and flows. Clearly, Stephen Kwan wasn't going to hit the way he was hitting coming off of the injured list. You hope that he bounces back. It's nice to see Bo Naylor put together a good week or two here recently, kind of finding his swing. I know about Father's Day or so, a lot of people were talking about, do we need to send him down to find his swing down in Columbus? But he's kind of found it up here at the big league level. So that's great to see. There's been a lot of young players playing, and I almost think that they're kind of showcasing some of these guys for potential trade partners. And clearly, teams have scouting departments that are at every level of the minor leagues, so they can see these guys, but seeing them in Columbus versus seeing them in Cleveland, sometimes, something may spark. So it'll be interesting to see here over the next month or so as we move closer to the trade deadline, get through the All-Star break, kind of how the roster shakes out. It is interesting that Tristan McKenzie, I'm sure they approached him before just optioning him to Columbus just to kind of talk it through with him accepting the assignment more or less, to go down there, try to work out a few things, because his velocity's there, but the control's just been missing these past few starts. He threw a couple over the umpire's head to the backstop. He spiked a few about 55 feet, 5 feet before the plate. So hopefully he's able to get back to an ace level, as been expected since Bieber's gone down. It'll be great to get Gavin Williams back. Thought maybe his rehab went a few starts past what maybe was expected, but maybe he felt that he needed it, or the team felt that he needed it to get to a point where they can bring him up with little to no restraint or pitch count. So yeah, I'm not concerned, but it would have been nice to put the Royals away. You kind of, like you said, give them a second shot of life here. They have great pitching. They have Bobby Witt Jr. They have a few other guys that can put the ball in play. And like you said, the Twins are doing what the Twins have done for the past however many years. They seem like they might be kind of falling behind, and then they catch fire, and then you look up and they're in first or right on your tail. So yeah, I think we've kind of reached that point, especially with a younger roster, that maybe we need the All-Star break. I know we have tonight off, but that, I believe that's the last off day until the All-Star break. So we'll see how these next week or two go. It helps maybe that the White Sox are coming to town and you're getting back home. Cleveland has the best home record, or at least they did at the end of last homestand. So they clearly play better at Progressive Field versus on the road. I know Wednesday's a sellout, so they seem to play better when the crowd's there. There's great crowds expected all week, with it being the holiday week. So we'll see how it goes, but I don't think there's reason to sound the alarm yet on the Guardian season.
James, your thoughts?
Yeah, Derek, the key last 3 starts, 11 walks for McKenzie. Everybody has been talking about his velocity being actually slightly up compared to where he was at one point. So that's a good sign with the weather getting loose, but it's control command. It's like you were saying, if you can't find a plate, as a pitcher, it doesn't matter how hard you throw if you can't throw strikes. So him going down just to be able to find the strike zone again to get his touch back, I guess no different than a hitter trying to find their swing. They're not really diving into whether it's injury related or not. At least you don't hear Tristan talking about it. People around him whisper, but when you think back to Bieber and the 2 starts he had this year and what he went through, nobody could even tell he was hurt. Next thing you know, he's out for the year, getting Tommy John after pitching extraordinary, even in that second start. So I don't know what to expect. I want him to go down there and just be down there as long as he needs to. It really makes you think about what Lively and Carrasco have been able to do. Lively, for one, to actually pitch as well as he has, but 2, for Carrasco to actually just eat up innings for us as a starter. I mean, how important that's been. Has he had great games? No, he had a nice game his last game, or at least the last game, I'm sorry. I can't remember if his last start was as good or if it was the start before that, but that's what as a vacation does for you. But no, it's important to get those innings, to eat them up. But we got some guys down. Doug Nikhazy is at AAA now, was called up from the RubberDucks. Maybe that's somebody that sneaks up here before the end of the year. The RubberDucks had 3 different starters with double-digit strikeouts in their last 3 starts. One of them including Ryan Webb, left-handed starting pitcher. Another pitcher down there, Aaron Davenport's pitching really well. One of the ERA leaders in the Eastern League. So there's help down there. So if we want to start talking about, trades and improvement and the All-Star break and what are we going to do, as much as we love being in that number 1 spot in the American League, the Yankees are going to go out and just be bodacious about how they add to their roster. We're not going to do that. Do I think we're really going to make a big trade at the deadline and give up what we need to give up to do it? I don't see it, because starting pitching is at such a high premium across the league. We are not the only ones with needs in the starting rotation. So it's going to be at a very expensive cost to what we would have to give up for a major league starter with experience to slot them into that roster. So that's, like I said, we're just getting All-Star break. We should be happy where we're at. But let's not settle necessarily for the success we've had. Rookie manager with a rotation that's lacking a little bit right now, and we're still in first place in the American League. I mean, we would take that all day long. So anybody that's huffing and puffing over what happened on this road trip, it's 26 games in 27 days. This is their off day. Just played 13 in a row. You played Baltimore and Kansas City, 2 winning teams on the road. Cut them some slack, give them their off day here because they got, another 13 in a row to go now with the terrible White Sox. Giants have a losing record. Rays are at 500, but showing some improvement, 7-3 in their last 10 games. And then we got Detroit, I think, right before the All-Star break. So nothing really challenging in front of us other than how we prepare and get to the ballpark and how we perform against some of the teams that are on this schedule going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, Derek, like you mentioned with McKenzie, I mean, he was hitting 96, which is about his top end velocity last start. It's just a command issue right now. His mechanics are all out of whack. So hopefully he can go down there maybe for 2-3 weeks, get himself straightened out. Logan Allen's been a complete mess. I don't know what they're going to do there. They did sign Matthew Boyd, the veteran lefty, formerly the Detroit Tigers, had some good years with Detroit. 33 years old, coming off Tommy John surgery. You never know what's going to happen there. A lot of guys come back even better than they were before from Tommy John. So he's going to go down and make some rehab appearances, and they said don't expect him in the rotation until probably early August. So it looks like they're kind of stuck with Logan Allen right now. I know, James mentioned Casey just getting up to Columbus. Joey Cantillo has made a couple starts now. Coming back from injury, he could be an option they could look at some point in the next couple weeks. But talking about young guys making their debuts, and how about the smashing debut by John Kensey Noel? First major league at bat, first swing, the bat goes flying, almost into the dugout. Gets it back. What's he do next? Pitch, high fastball, hits it 418 feet to dead center field. First major league home run in his first major league at bat. He's had a couple games where he's 0 for 4, 3 strikeouts, but hit another bomb the other night. That's kind of what you're going to get with a young power hitter like him. It's going to be all or nothing, but just to have that power threat, a guy you can put behind Josh Naylor, I think is a big help. What do you guys think about Mr. Noel's debut?
Yeah, I think we've kind of been waiting for it. What he's shown in spring training, he's shown that he has the power. What he's shown going through the system and making his way through the system rather quickly for all intents and purposes. But like you said, a young power hitter, that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna have those 400 immaculate 400 some foot home runs, and then he's gonna look silly swinging at some of these pitches that bounce in the dirt just because he's up here. He knows what he's up here for. He's up here to provide the power, give that offense a jolt, and he's gonna swing for the fences. And it's been probably since Fran Meal, since they've had someone in the lineup that that's kind of the game plan every time he steps into the box. I know Naylor swings for the fences a lot as well, but he seems to be one that will take a double here or there. But Noel steps into the box and he has one thing on his mind, and that's going deep. And when it happens, it's immaculate. And you gotta have patience, and that's gonna take a lot because with hitters like that, I fear that the book gets written a little faster than on some of these other guys that come up from the minor leagues. And pitching coaches are going to find what pitches he's going to chase, and he's going to see those a lot. So he'll have to adjust his approach. And Chris Valleca has done a great job this year. The offense has looked better than they have in the past 3 or 4 seasons. Even those seasons that we made runs to the playoffs, it was pretty much pitching that got us there. But Chris Valleca has done a great job with the offense. Even guys like Stephen Kwan's gone yard here, not swing so much for the fences, but just the quick hands through the zone, getting out in front of a ball. It's been great to see. And I mentioned earlier, Bo Naylor starting to hit the ball better, which is great to see as well, because there for a while he was about 180, 185 or so for a batting average. I'm pretty sure he's up to in the 2 teens or 220s. So that's great to see. But yeah, Noel did, it's hard to expect a home run in your first at bat. Last Cleveland player to do it was Kevin Kuzminoff down in Texas for Grand Slam, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to see Noel make his debut. And he's a name that's going to get brought up in trade rumors. He, Tana, Valera, DeLauder, and it's just going to be, do we think that these guys can do what we drafted them for, what we signed them as free agents and nurtured them through the system for, or is it time to, to get something good, you have to give up something good in baseball? And how many trades does it look like? Oh man, they're giving up, all these prospects, and then the prospects sometimes don't pan out. Kyber Ruiz with Washington, he was a big time prospect for the Dodgers, and he's kind of been a mid-level catcher for the Nationals. And Yohan Moncada for the White Sox, he was, a big time prospect for the Red Sox and hasn't really been what was expected. So then you can look at trades like when the Indians traded Cologne and got Gray, Sizemore, Brandon Phillips, Cliff Lee. All three of those panned out to be all-star players. And, Cologne went on to have a great career, but hindsight being 2020, do the Expos pull the trigger on that deal? Maybe not. So
James, what do you think? We have our Pedro Serrano.
Yeah, I know. It seems like it, doesn't it? Yeah, we might have to sacrifice a few chickens to keep him from swinging at the ball in the dirt, looking like he's trying to play top golf. That's for a different time at Progressive Field. So, yeah, once he starts getting back home there, hopefully he can get a little more comfortable with the confines of Progressive Field. And, yeah, that's – I think I saw on MLB Network, they said that was the hardest hit ball by a Cleveland player since like 2015 when StatCast started. So it was like 100 and I think exit velocity was like 115. So usually I don't give a crap about that stuff, but I thought it was kind of interesting anyways, just because we actually have a guy that looks like that if you had a benches clearing brawl that he'd be, you want him on your squad instead of like us with a bunch of kids running out on the field getting our ass kicked. So yeah, it's nice to have some girth and some bulk out there that can smash the ball from the outfield position. But that's the catch. Or you're going to get some power, but then your average is going to dip. Can he hit average? Can he even at least hit the average that Will Brennan hits? Gosh, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. It's so early. He's just getting up, getting his feet wet. I think in 14 at bats, he's got 7 strikeouts. So, 2 home runs, I think a double, and so 3 hits out of 14. And then, like I said, a lot of strikeouts. So, but strikeouts are the what's cool in the Major League Baseball now, to swing for the fences. Even though I watched the video, George Brett was talking about, he disagrees with the launch angle thing. He talks about bringing your bat through the zone. It's still at the same spot because if you start to launch angle, he believes that the ball will not be the bat and the ball will not be making contact. There won't be as much time in the zone to be able to make a hit. So if the ball's on top of the bat, you're going to hit a fly. If it's below, it's a grounder. But the key is to keep that through the zone to make better contact. And unfortunately, that's not really what's in today's game, even though thank you, Stephen Kwan, for a great season, because to me, as long as Kwan goes, that's how the Guardians go. And I think he's been a lot of the key to our success offensively by getting on base as much as he has. And you can see how that's helped Jose's numbers this year too.
Yeah, I kind of cracked up after Noel hit that home run in Baltimore. His first at bat, his second at bat, he came up and he hit a line drive to the medium deep center. As soon as the ball came off the bat, the Baltimore crowd, all you heard was say, "Ooh!" He's one of those guys that you're excited to watch because you don't know what's going to happen. He's like either going to look foolish striking out or he's going to hit a ball 450 feet. So it's it's kind of cool to have a guy like that. And just wait till he gets the ball up into the wind tunnel, hitting Oppo at Progressive Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might go 500 plus with the 8 of that wind tunnel we have.
He'll end up in the cemetery.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, so before we wrap it up, we're now less than a month away from the MLB trade deadline. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Some needs that they need. Obviously, the glaring need is the starting pitcher with all the issues they've had. And it would be nice to get maybe a corner outfield bat that's got a little bit of pop. And there's some guys out there that you might not have to break the bank for. Pitching is what's going to cost you, but you can find a mid-level, mid to higher level of bat without having to give up as much. Do you guys agree those are the 2 big holes we're looking at right now, a starting pitcher and maybe a corner outfielder?
Oh, for sure. 100%. But like I said, it's the expense of a starting pitcher for this season for as many teams that are still in it, with the wild card spots. How many sellers are actually going to be out there? And then when you do, who are you competing with to get that? You're going to have to give up way more than you want. We all know how conservative our organization is. We know how we already value our pitching that we have and the pitching that we're developing. I really see maybe somebody sneaking up out of the minors this year that's not on the roster right now and making a very big impact on the second half of the season.
Yeah, they were saying on the radio, I think, kind of what James just said, with that third wild card spot. Now more teams think, oh, maybe we're one hot streak away from being in the thick of it. So the amount of sellers really dwindles. And when you take into account how many teams are looking to add, like you are, then the price goes up. And are we willing to make that deal if typically you'd only have to give up a mid-level and maybe a triple A player, but now it's two triple A players that are close, and you have envision being, a building block as the years go down. Um, so yeah, it will be interesting. They don't always make the moves that we want to, but all in all, uh, Mike Chernoff, Chris Antonetti, I think have done enough to kind of have some leeway with fans. They've earned some grace from us to just kind of trust them, and that Stephen Vogt's doing great as a rookie manager, better than I think anyone could imagine. Even I think if he gave truth serum to Chris Antonetti, I don't think he would have said that we'd have the best record in the American League on July 1st with a rookie manager. So but this is one of the tough spots that we've kind of one of the first tough stretches that we've had. So it'll be interesting to see how he rebounds, how he kind of refocuses the team now that they're returning home off of the off day today. It'd be nice to string together a couple series wins before the All-Star break so we kind of feel a little bit better. And then who knows, maybe that does open up the trade window a little bit more for us, and maybe then you know someone like a Valera becomes maybe a little bit more expendable to get that third or number two starter to kind of boost the starting rotation, because as you mentioned, Kev, Logan Allen, despite the win loss record, hasn't been as counted upon as you would like to see. And once you get to the playoffs, it's a three-man rotation, and Bieber's down for the year. McKenzie's having his issues currently. Bybee's probably the only starter right now that you could give the ball to in October and feel comfortable.
He's our
And that
ace right
yeah,
now.
yeah, that's not gonna win playoff series though, because especially as a young pitcher, they aren't gonna have him throw on short rest. So you're gonna need at least one, maybe two starters. And like James said, it could be someone that comes up from AAA, kind of like the three did last year. You got Gavin Williams coming back. I'm not expecting him to go out there and look like a number two starter on Wednesday when he makes his first start, but as he builds up his stamina and we get into August, September, maybe he can be the guy that you count on as your number two. But who's that number three? Because Carrasco is kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Some starts he looks okay and he can give you five, maybe even six innings, and then others, once he gets through the lineup one time, they're ready to tee off on him. And so yeah, I think that the way these next couple weeks go, not just for Cleveland, but for teams around both leagues, then maybe the trade market kind of takes shape, especially I feel like every year, kind of around All-Star break, everyone kind of comes together. That's kind of where some groundwork gets laid, similar to the winter meetings. That's when, maybe a big trade happens, and trades don't happen often around the All-Star break, but I feel like it'd be remiss not to think that the groundwork for some trades is placed there, and it's kind of, we'll circle back in 2 weeks to see if we're still where we're going to be, or if we kind of fall off, and maybe we press the brakes and we just kind of ride it out with what we have on the 40 man, or looking to bring someone up from Akron or Columbus to try to be that shot in the arm.
Yeah, and it could be a blessing in disguise with Gavin Williams too, with him starting his season in July. You're not going to have to worry about him having that dead arm that a lot of young kids have, pitching 200 innings for the first time in the major leagues. So, he could be fresh for the rest of the season, and hopefully we get to see the Gavin Williams we saw last year when he came up. He was hitting 98 miles per hour in his last rehab start, so it looks like he's ready to go. And Zach Meisel, who's, as connected as anybody to the Guardians, did say that the vibe he's gotten is that they're going to treat this like 2016 and make a 2016 level Andrew Miller type move or two to boost this team. So, we'll see if that becomes the case or not. Like I said, we're 29 days away, and I'm sure we'll start hearing some rumors here in the next couple weeks.
I mean,
Right.
I think you're right, Kevin, as far as that, maybe an Andrew Miller type trade, but I don't see any major trade for, a starting pitcher, even though I just looked up Aaron Savali's stats that we traded at the deadline. He is a whopping 2-6 with an over 5 ERA with Tampa this year. So maybe we can get him on the loan. Maybe we'll just keep trading Manzardo and him back and forth every year to see, if we need pitching or hitting at that point. We'll just keep swapping guys back and forth. So, yeah, go get Aaron Savali. There we go. There's the answer.
Well, what's funny is that another former guy, Cal Quantrill, he's 6-6 with a 3.78 ERA with the Rockies, actually having a pretty solid year.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
Get Cal back.
They're both coming back.
Cal Quantrill and Nolan Jones for, I don't know.
Jones is struggling though. Him and Will Benson aren't having the same magic they had end of last year.